Welcome aboard, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health. Thanks so much for tuning in and turning on to my worldwide free webinar, The Cancer Chaos. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your support very much. To set the record straight, and for the people who have been following me for a long while, the depth and the breadth of this information was too much to fit into one simple webinar. So we're going to divide it up into two, perhaps three segments. Tonight we're going to be talking about the problem with conventional cancer treatment statistics, and a rational understanding of the whole cancer concept, with an emphasis on the holistic perspective. In a week or two, I'll be rolling out webinar number 2 in this series. That will also be a free event, and I'll talk about holistic alternatives to conventional cancer treatment, hopefully with special guests. I'm going to allude to that at the very end of tonight's webinar. For those of you who have been with me for a long time, some of the information here in the very beginning of this presentation may be redundant. I'm having to go over the basics here because we are anticipating lots of new people showing up to this webinar via YouTube. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the cancer presentation in approximately 10 minutes, but I need to set the stage first for the people who are new to this venue. So once again, thanks for tuning in and turning on. I am your steadfast advocate for health, Dr. Peter Glidden. Let's take it from the top. For those of you new to this venue, I am a naturopathic physician. The initials after my name are ND. ND stands for naturopathic doctor. Naturopathic, the doctoral degree in naturopathic medicine, is a primary care, fully licensed, fully regulated medical discipline. I matriculated at Bastyr University of Naturopathic Medicine in Seattle, Washington. It's quite a beautiful campus in Kenmore, Washington, right on the shores of Lake Washington. It's a beautiful place. I'm also a member of the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians and have been for at least a decade now. I have 27 years of clinical experience in the delivery of naturopathic primary care therapeutics. Now, for those of you who don't know what naturopathic medicine is, well, I'm here to bring you up to speed. In order to become a naturopathic doctor, you have to complete your pre-med degree, pre-med biology, pre-med chemistry, organic chemistry, calculus, etc., the same way you do as a conventional medical doctor. You have to then go to a naturopathic medical school. There are currently 4 naturopathic medical schools which are accredited by the United States Department of Education in the United States and 1 in Canada. You have to do 4 years of naturopathic medical school, which includes about 900 hours, more or less, of clinical supervision. Then once you complete your degree, you have to sit for and pass state boards, national boards. And once you have a license in one of the 18 states which licenses and regulates naturopathic medicine, then you have to pursue a great many hours of continuing education credit. I am currently licensed to practice naturopathic medicine in the great state of Minnesota, and Minnesota requires 25 hours of continuing education credit for naturopathic doctors every year. I believe MDs in the state of Minnesota need to do 12 every 2 years, although I might be mistaken on those exact numbers. The long story short here about the education of a naturopathic physician is it is a full-blown medical education in primary care medicine. This is not some fly by the seat of your pants course online that you can take to become a naturopath. This is a full-blown doctoral degree granted by fully accredited universities in the United States and Canada, which deliver the naturopathic medical degree. My profession is currently licensed and regulated in 18 states in the United States, and it may surprise you to realize that in many of these states, naturopathic medical care is covered by insurance, and naturopathic medical doctors also have prescriptive rights. We can prescribe drugs. Yes, we can prescribe drugs, although this, of course, is not the main therapeutic intention of naturopathic medicine. Naturopathic medicine is a holistic system of medicine, and holistic medicine argues that the human body knows how to fix itself, the human body wants to fix itself, and it's the holistic physician's sacred duty to prescribe treatments which assist in that process, which support and promote the body's built-in God-given ability to fix itself. There's also a fundamental belief inside of naturopathic medicine that the human body is inhabited by a spiritual force, a soul presence. This is not a religious conversation. This is a spiritual conversation. We believe that the human body, human beings are spiritual entities having a physical experience, that there is an intimate relationship between the mind, the body, and the spirit, and naturopathic medical therapeutics take all of this into consideration, but in a much more pragmatic way than most people think. And we're going to get into this later on in the meat and potatoes of this presentation. It is perhaps important from the point of view of gathering perspective. It is important to understand where we are coming from and what is going on in the world. And sometimes we are so caught up with our jobs, our relationships, our finances, our kids, our lives, that we just don't have time to understand the world from the proper perspective. We don't have time to educate ourselves about the different types of medicine that are available. We are too busy attending to our lives. We just take it for granted that the people practicing medicine in our community know what's best for us. Well, in point of fact, nothing could be further from the truth. We do not have a free medical market. We haven't had a free medical market for the past 100 years, more or less. For the past 100 years in industrialized nations around the world, medicine has been monopolized by one facet of medicine, the MDs. And while the MDs have been directing our health care well, I've put together a little slide presentation by way of education, by way of information, by way of perspective, to help you understand, perhaps for the first time in your life, what's really going on here in the not-so-free world of the 21st century with the research, development, and delivery of medical therapeutics. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of 21st century medicine from the proper perspective. Benjamin Rush, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, one of the people who put his life, his liberty, and his family fortune on the line so that the United States could be born, would be spinning in his grave if he saw what was going on here in the United States. Because here's what Dr. Benjamin Rush said over 200 years ago. Unless we put medical freedom into the Constitution, the time will come when medicine will organize itself into a dictatorship to restrict the art of healing to one class of men and deny equal privileges to others will constitute the Bastille of medical science. All such laws are un-American and despotic, and that's exactly what has happened here in the last 100 years. We do not have a free medical market. The only medicine that your insurance pays for in most states, the only medicine that's practiced in your hospitals, the only medicine that universities do research on, the only medicine that they make TV shows about is MD-directed medicine. And we have become socialized to believe that the MDs own the secret decoder ring to all things medical, that they are the exclusive gatekeepers to medicine, and everybody else is a back-of-the-bus quack with substandard treatment. It's just not true. Often, from the particular point of view, just the opposite is in fact the case. In the final analysis, medicine is really, it's a lot like dogs. There's a lot of different types of dogs, and they're all good for different things. Well, there are a lot of different types of medical disciplines. They're all good for different things, right? In the wonderful world of dogs, we have bloodhounds. They're great for finding lost people in the wilderness. There are Labrador retrievers, right? They're great for pheasant hunting, great for duck hunting. There's Chihuahuas. I have no idea what they're good for. But I can guarantee you if you take a Chihuahua duck hunting, you're going to come back empty-handed, right? Wrong dog for the hunt. Well, as it turns out, your medical doctor is not trained in medicine. Nobody is. Medicine is a broad term. There are many different types of medicine. Naturopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine, chiropractic medicine, osteopathic medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and acupuncture, homeopathy, and, interestingly enough, allopathic medicine, which is what your MD is trained in. Your medical doctor may be the nicest person that God ever created, but your medical doctor isn't trained in medicine. Nobody is. Your medical doctor is trained in allopathic medicine, and to understand what's going on with cancer and with cancer treatment, we must understand the philosophy which informs allopathic medicine. This is a foundation concern. We have to have an understanding here, or nothing else will make sense. Allopathic medicine, what the MDs are trained in, is based on a peculiar medical philosophy called reductionism. And reductionism is based on the physics of Sir Isaac Newton. Reductionism argues that if it can't be measured, it doesn't exist. And since nobody has ever dissected the soul or the spirit from a corpse or seen it with an MRI, a CT, or an ultrasound, to the reductionistically trained medical professional, it doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. And therefore, to the MD, well, let's break it down by the numbers. Somebody's philosophy informs everything that they do, right? Republicans do what they do because of their philosophy. Democrats, liberals do what they do. Conservatives do what they do. Buddhists do what they do. Christians do what they do. Muslims do what they do, all because of their philosophy. It's no different in the wonderful world of science. In the wonderful world of medical science, we can break medicine down into two distinct camps. The MD camp and everybody else. MDs are trained in reductionistic medicine, reductionistic science. Reductionism argues if it can't be measured, it doesn't exist. The body is a machine made of parts. There is no soul. There is no spiritual force. There is no inherent physical intelligence. Therefore, the body does not have the capacity to heal itself. It is not the MD's job to cure anything. It is the MD's job to manage your symptoms with drugs. And by the way, each piece of the body gets its own treatment. So you get one drug for the migraine, one drug for the heartburn, one drug for the high blood pressure, one drug for the blood sugar issue, one drug for the arthritis, and 2 or 3 drugs to take care of the side effects of those drugs. Now, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, I can prescribe drugs as a naturopathic physician. It's not the drug, it's how it's used. Your medical doctor, by virtue of their training in allopathic medicine, which is grounded in reductionistic medical philosophy, believes that the body is basically a bag of biochemicals waiting to break. And it is not the MD's job to cure anything. Now, think it through. Of the thousands of prescription medications, the only ones that can cure anything are antibiotics, right? And even those are beginning to fail us. That, by the way, is the next medical tsunami to hit the world. Antibiotic-resistant infectious diseases. I'm going to do a webinar exclusively on that in the very near future, but I digress. So I want you to think this through. To the medical profession that doesn't even know how to cure heartburn, right? Your medical doctor, bless his or her heart, can only manage heartburn. They do not know how to cure even heartburn. To the medical profession that does not know how to cure heartburn, we've given nearly $1 trillion to come up with a cure for cancer. No wonder we're in such a bad situation when it comes to cancer treatment. Now, on the other side of the coin, every other medical discipline in the world, with the exception perhaps of osteopathic medicine, every other type of medicine in the world espouses a holistic medical philosophy. And holism argues that the body is a complex system of interrelated parts, that the body is inhabited by a spiritual presence. The spiritual presence brings intelligence to play. The body knows how to fix itself. The body wants to fix itself. The body is attempting to fix itself. By the way, our bodies are so intelligent that they grew themselves all by themselves from a single-celled organism into us. Our bodies are taking care of business right now outside of our conscious control. Millions of biochemical things are happening in your body right now, completely beyond your control. All of these things, from the holistic point of view, are taken care of by the innate, inherent, God-given intelligence of the body. And it is the sacred duty, again, I cannot choose my words carefully enough. It is the sacred duty of the holistic physician to deliver therapeutics unto the sick, the intention of which are to support and promote the body's built-in ability to fix itself. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, to attempt to cure the condition. And by the way, we don't treat the disease, we treat the person. The treatments are never delivered to the disease part by part. The treatments are delivered to the entire person. These are very important distinctions to understand moving forward if we are to attempt to grasp what's really going on here with cancer in the 21st century. Now, this is not a MD bashing session. This is a let's get perspective session, and that's important. Because the MDs are trained in reductionistic medicine, it only makes sense that they would excel in trauma care, surgery when it's necessary, and a handful of infectious diseases. These are the things that the MDs are great at. Thank God for Novocaine, right? Penicillin, maybe. But nonetheless, right, there is a place for the MD using allopathic reductionistic therapeutics. But because of the medical monopoly, the MDs treat everything all the time. And even though, as we've seen in the little video I put together, while we have been under their tutelage and care, everything is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. We still go to them. For goodness sakes, we don't go to chiropractors for open heart surgery or to remove bullets from our arm. Heaven forbid. It is my opinion that neither should we go to a medical doctor if we have a chronic disease. If you need surgery, go to a medical doctor. If you've had a bad trauma to your body, go to the emergency room, because this is what the medical doctors are best at. But when it comes to chronic diseases, MD-directed medical treatments for chronic diseases, they don't cure anything. They're the leading cause of bankruptcy and the leading cause of death. And what's the most expensive medicine? It's the one that doesn't work. Right? They're, in the final analysis for chronic diseases, they're just the wrong dog for the hunt. And the only reason that they still have a job, the only reason that we still go to them is because that they exist in the monopoly, which we were warned about when the Constitution of the United States was written. But you don't know what you don't know. And since these distinctions are not taught in school, most people just assume that because the medical doctors are the only show in town, their therapeutics must be better than everybody else's. And this is not the case. The medical doctors are in power because they legislated themselves there. After the Flexner Report, with influence by the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegies, in the early 1900s, complete control over the delivery of medicine was given to the MDs. It was legislated. It was a behind-the-scenes deal. It had nothing to do with efficacy of treatment or medical science. And it has been that way ever since. Ladies and gentlemen, you most certainly are welcome to your own opinion. But you most certainly are not welcome to your own set of facts. I dare say this is the first time that anybody has laid out the facts for you in the proper way. Let's get into it. The real reason that you are here, right? I hope that the foundation that I have just laid will help you to understand what's going on here with the treatment of cancer. Let's take a look at the cancer by the numbers. These data, by the way, from the American Cancer Society and the United States Center for Disease Control. Between 2010 and 2020, there will be almost 2 million new cases of cancer which are projected to happen. What does this mean? This means that conventionally trained medical doctors who hold sway over the research, development and delivery of medical treatments are lousy at treating cancer. They have no idea what causes cancer, and they have no idea how to cure it, because under their watch, cancer is getting worse. According to the United States Center for Disease Control, in 2016, there will be 1,685,210 new cancer cases. Nearly 600,000 people will die from it. This translates to 4,620 new cases of cancer every day, 1,630 deaths from cancer. For goodness sakes, how many people died in the Twin Towers? 2,000. We went to war. 1,600 people a day die from cancer, and what do? We continue to give the people who have failed us in understanding what causes cancer and understanding how to treat it more money. And this is the problem with the monopoly. By the way, national expenditures, this is only in the United States, by the way. Forgive me for my listeners in the UK and Australia and Japan and India and all around the world as this message is spreading. But this isn't that different from country to country, right? These are the trends because it's allopathic MD-directed medicine everywhere all the time in industrialized nations. The projection is by 2020 we will spend $160 billion a year on ineffective cancer treatments. What's that, you say, Dr. Glidden? Ineffective cancer treatments? Well, again, you're welcome to your own opinion, but not your own set of facts. Here are the facts. This from the National Cancer Institute. By the way, if you get into the habit of researching cancer treatment, you will see this acronym frequently, SEER. It stands for the Surveillance, Epidemiology, and End Results Program. This is the gold standard of cancer statistics. How effective is our cancer treatment? So what's happening with cancer? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? The SEER data are the most compelling. However, you must be careful when you are attempting to understand the statistics, because remember, it's a monopoly. And where did I hear that absolute power corrupts absolutely? Well, let's take a look. If you were to go into the National Cancer Institute's website and check on statistics for instance, breast cancer, you would see a very heartwarming, optimistic statistic that says that the percent of women surviving after 5 years of a diagnosis with breast cancer is nearly 90%. Oh my God, that's awesome. Well, the devil is in the details, because these data were derived when you compare women who have breast cancer and how long they live after they had breast cancer with the general population. When you compare how long women who get breast cancer live with how long women their same age in the same country live, whether they die from a bullet wound or an automobile accident or asthma or kidney failure or natural causes or whatever, you get this number, 89%, 89.7 survivorship, which seems at first blush to be really a great statistic. But when you pare it down and just look at the data for cancer, it's a completely different story. When you just look at how many women got cancer and how many of those women were still alive 5 years down the road, only 29% of women survive 5 years after their original diagnosis. Quite a different number. On the one hand, 89.7%, which is misleading on purpose, I believe. The real numbers, 29%, which means 71% of women who were diagnosed with breast cancer are dead within 5 years of treatment. By the way, let's not overlook the obvious. The National Cancer Institute, the American Cancer Society, about 15 years ago, don't quote me on that, that might be wrong, it might have been longer or shorter, stopped using the word cancer cure, and in order to validate their treatments, they came up with this 5-year survivorship thing, right? So nobody in conventional medicine talks about curing cancer anymore. They talk about how many people who have cancer are still going to be alive after 5 years of the diagnosis. However, what they don't tell you is that inside of this 5-year survivalship schemata, the disease may or may not have come back. So they got cancer, they were treated for cancer, 5 years later they're still alive, but in order to be included in this statistical array, in this statistical analysis, even if the cancer came back, they're put into the mix, which seems to me to be entirely misleading. But that's what happens inside of a self-policing, self-regulating medical monopoly. And you have to have scientific training and able to be ordered to interpret data like this. Most people have no idea. I mean, are you as smart as a 5th grader? I don't know. Most people have no idea how to interpret statistics, and we just think, the National Cancer Institute, they've got our back. And well, I've just proven that they don't. That the data here is entirely misleading. So let's take a look at the SEER data as it applies specifically to cancer patients, not comparing them to the rest of the population. Small cell lung cancer survival rate, 96% of the people who get small cell lung cancer are dead within 5 years. 67% of women who get ovarian cancer are dead within 5 years. 98% of people who get pancreatic cancer are dead within 5 years. 69% of men who get prostate cancer are dead within 5 years. 91% of people who get rectal cancer are dead within 5 years. 98% of people who get stomach cancer are dead within 5 years. Are you feeling heartbroken yet? Are you feeling a little bit nauseous yet? If you're not paying attention. Colon cancer, 93% of people who get colon cancer are dead after 5 years. Throat cancer, well, 100% are dead after 5 years. Non-small cell lung cancer, 96% dead. Kidney cancer, 92% dead. What does this mean? It means conventional cancer treatment doesn't work, period. And if you think it does work, there are a handful of childhood leukemias that it has been very promising in. And there are a handful of breast cancers, which if you get them before they spread and you hack the breast off, they don't come back because that particular cancer was very specific to the breast. And if you're okay with that type of treatment, well, that's kind of like thinking, well, if there was an outbreak of hand psoriasis, millions of people getting hand psoriasis, well, one treatment would be to cut your hand off. This is what we have become inured to. This is what we have become socialized to. For goodness sakes, ladies and gentlemen, it is as plain as the nose on your face. But you don't even have to be, have a scientific point of view or really any understanding of statistics or the scientific method at all. All you have to do is look around and start asking simple questions. How many people do you know who have had cancer? Of those people, how many are still alive? And if they are still alive, has it been more than 5 years? Because that seems to be the magic number. And if they are still alive, what is the quality of their life like? Facts are a stubborn thing. And as it turns out, cancer treatment with allopathic reductionistic methods is a gigantic disaster. However, we are empathetic beings. And so we don't really know these distinctions between allopathic reductionism, what the MDs do, and naturopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, holistic medicine in general. And we've been socialized to believe that those naturopaths and those chiropractors, they're just back-of-the-bus quacks with substandard training, right? And so we see these pictures of little children undergoing chemotherapy and all their hair falls out, and adults bravely fighting cancer. Oh, they're going to beat cancer. They're going to fight cancer, right? Our heart goes out to these people, and then we see the high-tech stuff that the MDs embed themselves in. And we stop thinking. I call it compassionate subterfuge and socialized idolatry. We have genuflected at the altar of the MD for 100 years, being socialized to believe that their way is the only way. So even when their treatments fail us, even when their treatments harm us, even when their treatments bankrupt us, even when their treatments kill us, we go back to the same well because we don't know any better. And quite frankly, I think that we've been manipulated here. I mean, whose heart isn't going to go out to a kid like that or an adult like that? It's a brave fight. But the numbers are not in your favor if you are availing yourself of allopathic cancer treatment. They just are not. And it's about time we all woke up because, quite frankly, what do? We rattle our chains to celebrate our freedom. We take our chemotherapy like a good soldier. even though the statistical odds of it helping us are extremely poor. Chemotherapy history is an interesting thing, by the way. Chemotherapy was actually dreamed up because of something that happened in World War II with mustard gas. Right? Mustard gas was invented in World War I. Maybe it was invented before that. I don't really know, but it was employed in World War I, like in the trenches, right? Bad stuff. In the World War II, it wasn't used. However, the U.S. thought that the Germans were going to use it. The Germans thought that the U.S. was going to use it. So everybody was stockpiling it. And the Germans got a sense that this was happening with the U.S., and so they sent the Luftwaffe to a port in Italy called Bari, where there was a bunch of U.S. frigates. They bombed the crap out of them, and what they discovered was that, the frigates were loaded with mustard gas. A lot of the sailors and soldiers that were on the U.S. ships were exposed to mustard gas. And so, the medical professionals took stock of what happened to them after they were exposed to the mustard gas, and it showed, son of a gun, that one of the things that happened was their white cell counts reduced. So these two guys, Louis Goodman and Alfred Gilman, both PhDs at Yale, decided to do experiments with mustard gas on people with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they found that, son of a gun, when they did analogs of the mustard gas, right, different derivations of mustard gas, different chemical derivations, and they injected it into non-Hodgkin's lymphoma victims, that the lymphomas got better. And this was the birth of the chemotherapeutic industry. Interestingly enough, again, we don't want to overlook the elephant in the room. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma here still kills 20,150 people in the U.S. a year. So I guess the mustard gas treatment wasn't that great, right? But see, this is how the MDs think. This is the MD ideology, because it's reductionistic. And reductionism argues that man is smarter than nature, man is smarter than God, that the human body is a bag of biochemicals waiting to break, and when something does go wrong, it's the doctor's job, the reductionistically trained MD's job, to orchestrate a hostile takeover of the metabolism of the body, right? So we give an antibiotic, an anti-inflammatory, an anti-hypertensive. We give something to kill the tumor, in this case. And these results that they got with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma were encouraging. But in the final analysis, it didn't work. But this was the beginning of the chemical revolution, the use of very harsh chemicals introduced into the blood of a human being in order to kill the tumor. As you can see, not very effective, ironically. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that when you attempt to do this, you're going to generate side effects. For goodness sakes, here's data from the UK. At least 500,000 people in the United Kingdom are facing poor health or disability after treatment for cancer. 500,000. 350,000 people are living with experiencing chronic fatigue after cancer treatment and sexual difficulties. 240,000 have mental health problems as a result of their cancer treatment. 200,000 are living with moderate to severe pain after cancer treatment. 150,000 are affected by urinary problems such as incontinence. And all of this heartbreak and suffering on top of the fact that, it doesn't work. You get cancer, you're going to die from cancer under the MD's care. But while you're waiting to die, first you're going to go bankrupt, then you're going to suffer, and then you're going to die. And apparently we're all okay with this. And as God is my witness, I just don't understand. I do not understand why some sheikh from Saudi Arabia or some Russian oil magnate, multimillionaire, or some Chinese or Indian entrepreneur with billions of dollars doesn't fund holistic cancer treatment. Because as we're going to see in my next segment, there are very encouraging things happening here in the world of holistic cancer treatment. But nonetheless, I think Max Planck said it best, the guy who discovered, the scientist who discovered quantum physics, right? He said science progresses one funeral at a time, which means that people brought up inside of a scientific methodology are loath to let it go, even when it doesn't work, because of cognitive dissonance. Your medical doctor just cannot bring him or herself to believe that if they weren't taught it in medical school, it's not valid. And since the only thing that they're taught is chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, that's what they do, even when it fails, even when it harms, even when it bankrupts, even when it kills. That just doesn't bode well for the humanistic integrity of a physician. But in the wonderful Machiavellian monopolistic world of MD-directed allopathic reductionism, that's par for the course. And, like the fella said, follow the money. I would encourage you all to sit down now and put a heavy book on your head, because I'm about to make your brain explode. This from NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams. I've been saying this for 5 years. Finally, NBC Nightly News caught up with me. If you go to a conventional MD for a migraine drug or a high blood pressure drug or a heartburn drug, the physician who prescribes it has no skin in the game. They don't make any money from the sale of that drug, and you go to the pharmacy and get the drug, right? Well, with chemotherapy, it's different. That's not how it goes. You can't go to the pharmacy and get chemotherapy. The only person who can order chemotherapy is an oncologist, and so here's how it goes, more or less. The oncologist orders the drug from the pharmacy, costs him about $2,000. They sell it to the patient for $12,000. Insurance pays $9,000, and the oncologist and the hospital split the difference. It is the only classification of drugs. Chemotherapeutic agents are the only classification of drugs which MDs are allowed to profit from directly. Here's what Rima Ellis said in the NBC News. It's a unique situation in medicine. Unlike other kinds of doctors, cancer doctors are allowed to profit from the sale of chemotherapy drugs. The significant amount of our revenue comes from the profit, if you will, that we make from selling the drugs, says Dr. Peter Eisenberg, a private physician who specializes in cancer treatment. This is another reason why, even though chemotherapy has such an unbelievably poor track record, that it's still rolled out, because it is a cash cow, right? Projected by 2020 that the cancer industry is going to generate $160 billion of revenue. To the doctors and the medical industry that can't cure cancer, and under whose tutelage and care it's getting worse, not better. By the way, the same with high blood pressure, the same with Alzheimer's, the same with autism, the same with everything. Chronic diseases are escalating while we have given ourselves over to the care of the allopathically trained, reductionistically centrist MD. And remember, thank God for surgery, right? Thank God for the sterile technique and the mattress stitch. No kidding. That stuff will save your life. And when I'm elected or appointed Surgeon General of the United States, it will be illegal for the MDs to treat chronic disease. They'll only be allowed to do emergency medicine, trauma, and surgery, which is what they're really good at. That's going to be a cold day in hell, I tell you. Now, so, we need the proper perspective, right? Let's just take a look at the MD-directed allopathic reductionistic centrist thought process. Remember, your medical doctor may be the nicest person God ever created, but they don't practice medicine. They practice allopathic medicine, right? And by its very nature, allopathic medicine, being reductionistic, is oppositionally defiant. Allopathic medical therapeutics attempt to orchestrate a hostile takeover of the human body with drugs and surgery. Remember, it's not the drug, it's how it's used. Allopathic treatment of cancer attempts to kill the tumor. However, the tumor is not the disease. It is the result of the disease. Do you get it? So, when you kill the tumor without removing the cause, what happens? Tumor comes back, which is one of the biggest problems with cancer treatment. It comes back. And when it comes back, it's 10 times worse than it was originally. For goodness sakes, the American Cancer Society has a whole booklet about living with uncertainty, the fear of cancer recurrence. It tells patients how to deal with the fact that, guess what, your cancer is probably going to come back. And by the way of conspiracy theory, I just did a rather extensive Google search, quite frankly, over the course of 2 hours. I typed in many different search terms all around the recurrence of cancer, and I could find very few statistics which actually nail down how frequently it comes back. But everything that I did pull up references, yeah, it comes back, but I couldn't get hard and fast numbers, which again is misleading to people. I don't know whether this has been on purpose or what, but the fact of the matter is we are in a world of hurt here when it comes to conventionally trained allopathic centrist MDs dealing with cancer. And it's not because they're bad people or sadistic. It's because they just don't know any better, and they don't have the intellectual courage to stand up and say, look, it doesn't work. We need to do something else. That's what should happen, and that's why I have a job. There's very few people, I'm going to ring my own bell here, there's very few people that are standing up and telling it like it is. And that's a problem. You would think that there would be more. So let's just take a breath and review. Right? We don't have a free medical market. The only medicine practiced in your hospital is MD-directed medicine. The only medicine that gets medical research money is MD-directed medicine, right? It's MDs everywhere all the time. And they don't practice medicine, they practice allopathic medicine, right? And allopathic treatment of cancer delivers statistically horrible results. It does. That's an academic fact. And it produces horrible side effects at a huge profit to the industry. Now, I looked up the definition of quackery. It's the promotion of fraudulent or ignorant medical practices. I mean, what do you think? If it looks like a duck, flies like a duck, quacks like a duck, well, it's probably an oncologist, quite frankly. So, here are my 10 questions that every cancer patient needs to ask their oncologist in the presence of a witness and a recording device, and I am as serious as a heart attack. Because the way that it goes here, at least in the United States, I don't know how it is in the UK or Canada or Australia or Japan, I don't know. But I know how it is in the US. People are diagnosed with cancer. There's no conversation with the doctor. The doctor schedules them for treatment, tells them when they're going to start treatment, and that's the end of it. People are kind of bullied into treatment. Well, my advice, if you are unfortunate enough to have been diagnosed with cancer, or anyone in your family, your church, or your circle of influence has been, forward them these questions and have them ask these questions politely to their oncologist in the presence of a witness and a recording device. Now, if you're a woman, have the witness be a male, preferably a big male in a black suit. I would have him wear sunglasses and just stand behind you with his arms crossed, smiling. So you start the conversation like this: Doctor, thank you for your time. I've been diagnosed with cancer, and I know that, I have a lot of different treatment options, right? That's your industry, it's an industry and you have to make money, and so I'm shopping for the best cancer treatment I can have. And towards those ends, I would like you to answer some questions that I have, if you'd be so kind. Well, yes, thank you very much. What causes my cancer? It's a pretty good question, don't you think? The medical doctor won't know. And if they tell you that it's genetic, you want to hold their feet to the fire and say, really, it's genetic, specifically which gene is it? And if it is genetic, how come there's more and more and more cancer, not less and less and less? Because I thought Darwin argued for selection of the fittest. So if this really was a genetic thing, shouldn't there be less and less of it instead of more and more? I don't understand. I'm sorry. So, will your treatment cure my cancer? Pretty good question, don't you think? Nobody ever asks that question. For goodness sakes, we ask more questions when we buy automobiles than we do when we're getting cancer treatment. And that's a problem. Of course, the treatment can't cure your cancer, and so when the doctor says, no, it won't cure it, then your rejoinder should be, well, if it won't cure it, what can I expect it to do? What should I expect? And what do you mean by 5-year survivorship? What does that mean? And what will the side effects of your treatment be? Now, specifically, I want you to line them up for me. And how are you going to treat those side effects? And can your treatment give me cancer? Because interestingly enough, some of the side effects of chemo and radiation are that you get a different type of cancer. Well, you need to know that. Really, is this treatment going to give me cancer? Well, what's my percentage chance of getting cancer from your treatment? I'd like to know. I'm shopping. Please, I need to know. And I know it's a delicate subject, but, the profit motive is at play here because, it's a medical industry, and I'm okay with that. I'm a fan of the free market system, free enterprise. I'm a fan of making money, capitalism all the way. USA. I'd like to know how much money you're going to make from my treatment. You specifically, how much money will you profit from my treatment? How much money will this medical institution profit from my treatment? It's a fair question. Because remember, I'm shopping. I'm trying to get the best bang for my buck. And lastly, I'd like you to give me the names of 5 of your patients who've had my type of cancer and who have been alive for more than 5 years. Because I want to call them and talk to them about what their experience has been. Thank you very much, doctor. I appreciate your dedication to the practice of medicine. Now, I've had patients kicked out of oncologist's office for asking the first 2 questions. So let the buyer beware. Which is why I encourage you to go with a witness, a big witness, and a recording device. And then I'd encourage you to post your doctor's response to the public. And, if more people just asked honest questions like this, I don't really think that anybody would engender conventional treatment. Some people would because they just don't know any better. And, that's how slavery persisted as long as it did, right? We just couldn't break that cognitive dissonance. Couldn't do it. Knew it was wrong, but kept doing it. Even George Washington, for goodness sakes. So we need to educate ourselves about what's really going on here. Understand that your medical doctor may be the nicest person God ever created, but they don't know what's best for you. They only know what they've been trained in. And when it comes to cancer treatment, the numbers are in. It's academic. Conventional cancer treatment is horrible. And quite frankly, it should be avoided. Now, next time we get together, we're going to talk about holistic cancer treatments, what you can expect from them. I'm going to give you resources about where you can go and what you can learn about it. And I have to tell you that we're flying by the seat of our pants with holistic cancer treatments. It's an underfunded industry. We have anecdotal evidence. We have some clinical trials, some clinical experience from courageous doctors like Dr. Brzezinski in Texas. We're going to be talking about these next time. The false placenta theory of cancer. That's a very interesting theory of cancer, which was espoused by Nick Gonzalez in New York. And if we open that can of worms, we also have to talk about his strange death. He's found in a stream bed with a shotgun wound to his chest, and it's ruled a suicide. This while he was championing an unconventional, effective cancer treatment based on the false placenta theory of cancer. We're going to talk about the work of Eli Jones, MD, his career and theories. Fascinating man, unbelievable success with cancer. Homeopathic doctor A.U. Ramakrishnan in India. His clinic and his homeopathic treatment of cancer and his successes, his failures, his successes. The alkaline theory of cancer treatment for all of you Kangen water devotees. Ayurveda and cancer and Dr. Brzezinski in Texas. We're going to touch upon all of these, and then I'm going to do a separate webinar on cancer prevention that gets its own webinar. So you can see, right, we've already gone an hour, and it took me that long to get you into the proper frame of mind to understand what's really going on here with cancer treatment. And by the way, those 10 questions, you should ask to anybody who you're going to for cancer treatment. Whether they're holistic or mainstream, you want to ask the same questions. And by getting an answer to those questions, you will perhaps understand what's the best therapeutic modality for you. Get it? Got it? Good. I am your steadfast advocate for health, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Peter Glidden. If you liked this free information, there is tons more on my website. Let's bring that up right now. Glidden.healthcare. Glidden.healthcare. I have an online subscription service on my website called the Dr. Glidden Health Advocate. It's $5 for a day or $20 for a month. As a Dr. Glidden Health Advocate, you will have immediate access to hundreds of hours of archived videos that I have produced, outlining the theory and the treatment of many different diseases from the holistic point of view. If you're struggling with a chronic health condition and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and the conventional medical treatment is not working for you anymore, and you want to know a science-based, clinically verified alternative developed and delivered by licensed holistic physicians, then become a Dr. Glidden Health Advocate. For goodness sakes, knowledge is power. We need to all lift ourselves up here. We're all in this together. So if you liked what you heard tonight, then for goodness sakes, please spread the word and help us to educate people about their choices in health, and more importantly, about the unheralded, untalked about benefits of science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. I am your steadfast advocate for health, Dr. Peter Glidden. Thank you for your time and your trust. Live long and prosper. I'll see you around campus.